As Donald Trump arrives to complain about NATO, U.S. soldiers are training alongside other NATO nations. No talk of money here, just mission. NATO's core mission of deterring Russia, especially now with threats to territory and a push for influence. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is dumping on other alliance members, sending letters like this one to Justin Trudeau, obtained by iPolitics, saying key allies like Canada have not stepped up defense spending as promised. And Trump is right, sort of.
Yes, it's true the United States spends far more on its military than other countries, but that's largely because it has a global presence. And in fact, it often could be said that it overspends in a lot of areas as well.
The benchmark amount for NATO nations is 2% of their economic output on military spending. It's a goal, not an obligation. And NATO just released this year's numbers. Canada in 18th spot at 1.23% of GDP. Nearly all members are increasing spending, but the fact remains America spends way more, 3/4 of the alliance's total military spending. But NATO was set up with this model in mind.
This, then, is the story of the way of life of people who live under the star of NATO.
The reason NATO was created in 1945, as it's been famously put, is to keep the Russians out, the Germans down, and the Americans in. And the reason is that really what the American presence has done is provided a security guarantee. And that means that other European nations don't have to build up their arms, that they don't have to acquire things like nuclear weapons in order to feel secure. So this is the importance of NATO.
To make his point, Trump may pick a fight at this week's summit or go bigger, draw down U.S. troop levels in Europe substantially, perhaps even pull soldiers from high readiness right along the Russian border, even withdraw from NATO.
It undermines the notion that there is unity in the West. This is something that Putin has long sought. It's something the Soviet Union sought to achieve during the Cold War, an undermining of the unity across the Atlantic Ocean. And I mean, it's astonishing. Now we have a president of the United States who's contributing to the undermining of the West.
Trump's shift away from traditional allies, other liberal democracies, and instead cozying up to strong-arm autocrats, comes just as his own military, along with Canadians and others, are conducting the world's largest military exercise together. It also comes as the biggest buildup of alliance armies in a quarter century is underway right now in Eastern Europe, pushing back against Russia. David Coleman, CBC News, Toronto.